Politeness theory is also central to pragmatics and the meaning which are driven pragmatically. Politeness may generally be defined as being nice, modest, or kind to others, but in pragmatics, it is defined as showing awareness and consideration for another person's self-image. So, if we just look at the literature which has been produced in this regard in the field of pragmatics, we see a lot of politeness concepts revolve around this idea of face. Let's try to know what is face. Face is basically the public self-image of a person which he claims to be respected by others. And interlocutors in a conversations usually try to maintain each other's face to build on a rational and peaceful communication. Under politeness theory, we could divide face into two aspects or two kinds. There is a positive face, which a speaker desires to have as one's self-image approved by others, something which he wants others to approve. And then there is a negative face, which is a part of one's personality and focuses on that he or she should not be imposed by others. Politeness strategies would largely depend on the positive or negative face. Whatever is in question, so the strategy would follow that line. For example, if positive face is in question, the strategy would be different, and a different strategy would come in case of a negative face. Face-threatening act is the one in which a person's public self-image may be threatened. If you say something that represents a threat to another person's self-image, we could safely call it a face-threatening act. For example, if you use a direct speech act when you want something from somebody, or you want somebody to do something for you, you might be performing a face-threatening act. For example, if you ask somebody, a colleague, give me that pen, he may be offended by that expression because it doesn't include any request. We also have a kind of face-saving act. Face-saving act, if you say something in a way where the possible threat to somebody's face is lessened, is reduced. This could be called a face-saving act, and you could perform this face-saving act in a situation where you want somebody to do something for you, and you use an indirect speech act or a requesting manner. For example, you could say, could you give me your pen? If you don't mind, could you give me your pen? So this is an indirect speech act in which you could request somebody to give you something, and he may not be offended. So this may be called a face-saving act. In situation where a face-threatening act might arise, the strategy would largely depend on the relationship between the speaker and listener. For example, we can have both negative and positive politeness. Negative politeness arises or is used when the negative face of somebody is in question, and it is oriented towards a person's negative face. And when you focus on negative politeness, you usually focus on showing some deference or respect or concern for others' time. For example, if it is necessary to intervene in somebody's affairs, you might take permission in advance or apologize in advance. For example, you could say, I'm sorry to bother you, but could I ask you something? Kind of stuff. So these expressions would lessen that face-threatening element in the situation. Positive politeness is focused on positive face and would show concern for solidarity, unity, and the speaker would try to show the sameness of goals or the purpose with the listener. and therefore he would build a relationship of solidarity and unity with the listener, and he would try to preserve his positive face. For example, you could use such expressions like getting to know you kind of conversation before you actually say something. For example, hey buddy, I would appreciate if you would let me use your pen. So this is a kind of a bit frank expression which may be used to maintain somebody's positive face. Do me a big favor and let me use one of your pens. And this may be preceded by getting to know you conversation, hi, how are you, kind of stuff. There are three popular maxims of politeness as proposed by Lakoff in 70s. And the first one is do not impose yourself on others. And for that matter, use expressions which seek somebody's permission or apology in advance in such situations. For example, I'm sorry to bother you, but this is an urgent affair, urgent matter which I want to discuss with you. So you could phrase your sentences in a way which would reduce the impolite manner or possibly impolite manner from the conversation. Then give options. When you ask somebody to do something for you, you could give them options, and this would reduce the element of impoliteness. For example, you could say, do you think you could possibly come pick me up? By putting that in a question form, you are giving the listener an option to come or not to come, and this becomes more polite. Then make your hearer feel good. When you want somebody to do something for you, you could appreciate him in advance or her in advance, and this would make him feel better. For example, you could say, you are better at this than me, or this would be great. And these kind of expression would again lessen the impact of impoliteness, possible impoliteness, or a threat to the face of listeners. By following such maxims, we could bring in politeness in our conversations, and we could teach such maxims in our classrooms as well.